kind of like how I look with these glasses on.
Right.
But they reflect the light a little too much.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately just a little distracting.
Yep. So
Anyway.
Oh, man. So I came
gosh.
home tonight. I went to the Indie 102.3 meetup for the first time tonight, and it was really fun. I met some cool people. First, I met Dana, the DJ who has recently returned to Colorado and come to 102.3.
Okay.
She has been in radio for forever and went away from Colorado for 25 years and then came back to Colorado and is now on 102.3. So it was wonderful to meet Dana, super friendly. And then I met Alicia, the one who is the local music
You're right.
person who...
does the local
stuff. I met her. I met a new friend who is not a musician at all, but is a music fan and came to this event. And she is a neuroscientist named Izzy, and we talked quite a bit. Made friends.
That's a wrinkle. I didn't know she was just a fan. That's a pretty hardcore fan.
There were a number of people at this show that were just music fans.
Or I was going to say, as soon as I said that, I was like, they've done an amazing job with the reach at 102.3.
Yeah.
That's
they really
really
have.
amazing.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I met a radio DJ who no longer, but recently did work at, I think it was 99.3, if I can remember the exact number correctly, but country radio station. And I saw my student and now co-tenant, Michael Pittman.
I know.
At this thing as well.
What a job he did on the green room.
Oh yes, the green room, meaning the... Okay, so...
Boy, it's a long story.
I'm like, back. So, sound structure is where we have our Denver location. And sound structure is in the same building as the Walnut Room. And the Walnut Room used to have one of Sound Structure's rehearsal studios as their green room. And then we rented it, and then the pandemic came and we got rid of it, and now we have it again, and we're sharing it with Michael Pittman. And he has decorated that thing better than I've decorated any of our other rooms.
I mean, I've only seen pictures, but it looks amazing.
It's pretty cool. It's vibey.
And it's so cool. Yeah, those guys work hard. They're really... practicing up a storm. Just to fill in one more detail, the Walnut Room used to be one of the more prestigious places to perform in Denver. That used to be one of the more serious rooms, and that's why they had a green room, is because it was a music venue.
Sorry, I skipped a piece there.
Right. And the restaurant's still called the Walnut Room, but they don't do shows there anymore.
Right. We used to do a lot of showcases there. They were
We did a lot of showcases there. Adrienne played there kind of a lot.
Yeah, we did our EP release party for Lines there.
We sort of had to work up to there. I mean, there was a time when you had to work up to the Walnut Room.
And now it is indoor virtual reality golf.
Virtual reality golf, which people seem to love. I kind of even want to do it. I mean, it's an easy way to hit some balls around, I guess.
Small tangent. I'm going to get us off the golf for a second. Dana from 102.3 told me that Denver has more music venues than Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Shocked me too.
Yeah, I would not have thought that.
That's what she swore. So
I don't feel like Denver has a lack of music venues. I just feel like it's not like overflowing with, but odd fact, I've been almost everywhere in the country. I've never been to Austin.
You, music dude, have never been to Austin.
I've never been to Austin one time. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, well,
not even on tour.
Not even on tour. No.
Huh. I guess you guys weren't cool enough for Austin.
It wasn't that kind of place, Yeah. And they're pretty liberal, so we
What have you done lately to
those
own
hippies?
The libs?
Yeah, exactly. Those hippies down in Austin, I don't need any of that.
So I'm just gonna keep talking because I had a couple drinks at the hangout.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna keep going.
I was just saying, sorry guys, it's gonna be an Adrienne episode. Like when you're watching Seinfeld and you're like, it's a George.
Oh, it's an Adrienne episode. Dang it.
Just joking.
Do I still want to listen?
Just joking. Yeah.
What were you gonna say something?
The play next video.
We're talking about nothing so far.
Anyway, all right, guys. So, women in music. The
Oh yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I hope the DJs from 102.3 don't hear me say this. Although Dana might, because Dana wants a link to this podcast, so we'll see. I was having so much fun talking to Izzy that I didn't listen to most of the panel. In fact, I didn't listen to any of that panel.
Well, I mean,
but
I'm sure they know it's going to be
I had a great time networking.
Yeah.
I was in the back there near the bar, and I was talking. And what I did want to mention was something very interesting, and I wonder how or if it plays out in our band life. So last night, I happened to watch a TED Talk by a woman whose name I cannot remember, but she was a gender and feminist studies major, and she posits that both men and women tend to believe things that are said less if they're said by a woman than if they're said by a man. Okay, so a human being says something. If that person is a woman, both men and women believe that fact less than if a man says it.
That is so surprising.
Really?
Oh yeah, men lie way more.
That's why I'm with you.
Yeah.
So she started a project called She Said, in which she gathered stories that simply were triggered by the prompt, tell us a story of something that happened to you that had to do with gender. That was it. And so she gathered these stories, and then she had men read the stories. So the women's stories read by men. And she had 3 men come up on stage and read these stories. And it was interesting, even for me, to hear and feel the impact that was different. That those stories were coming out of a man's mouth. Okay, so I watched that last night. And then tonight I was talking to my new friend Izzy, who is a neuroscientist, a female neuroscientist. And she was relaying when she was in grad school, she had this one seminar/hangout where it was her and a bunch of other male grad students and a couple of male professors. And she was starting to notice this weird kind of tension in the room. And what was happening was that her male grad students were starting to repeat the things that she was saying, and they were getting reactions from the professors in ways that she was not getting reactions from the professors. Now, they were doing it to be on her side. So they did it a couple... Oh,
that's funny.
They did it a couple times where she would say something and it would kind of land flat and nobody would talk. And then a male counterpart would say the same thing and the professor would go, oh, that's a really interesting point. And then her male counterpart, after a couple times, would say, that's exactly what Izzy just said.
Right. Wow. So yeah.
So it made me think, in our band situations, I don't feel a lack of power or a lack of respect among the guys.
You sure shouldn't, yeah.
I certainly don't feel it. And she was saying the same thing. She doesn't look for it. We've talked about this before. She doesn't look for sexism. She doesn't assume that people are going to treat her differently because she's a woman. And so she doesn't see it sometimes. And this is one of the examples where she didn't see it. Her male counterparts had to point it out. And make it obvious. And so I was wondering, like, what would happen if instead of you always sitting back and just letting me run the show when we're in a band together, if it's my show? What would happen if you kind of was like, yeah, that's a great idea, Adrienne. Like, if you kind of like were my ally, like saying, yeah, what she's saying makes sense. I mean, I don't want it. I'm just curious about it. Like, is there any lack of belief in what I'm saying because I'm female? Is that a dynamic that's happening that I'm not seeing?
I don't think in our projects, that's definitely, I don't think exists.
I don't think it does either.
And I mean,
I'm just examining it.
I feel like I try to be like a good, buddy on stuff, and I certainly support you 100%. And you know what? I would say sometimes I intentionally don't say stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't say, good idea, Adrienne. I know, because then it's like, oh, she needs that support from a man. And you don't need that. People respect you, That's what I thought. This made me think twice. Yeah, I don't need to throw in on your thing. Yeah. Behind your back, I undermine you at every turn. But that's a completely different thing. Completely different motivation. Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting subject.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that can be resolved in a short podcast. It's just it was a new perspective to add to the back of my mind, and I don't know, be aware of.
It's one thing it's an atmosphere I try to, not just atmosphere, but it's something I literally say, particularly working with, not all women, but particularly young women. Like, I make sure to literally point blank say, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, but that's just what I think. What do you think? I'm not necessarily right. Mm-hmm. It's not the right thing to do just because I said it.
Yeah.
And maybe I have 30 years of experience on you as a music person, but like, let's not do what I said just because I'm the one who thought of that. Let's really decide if that idea is the best idea. I may not know. I mean, I had that thought just last night working on vocals for Ipecac. Their EP's coming out soon. And we were finishing up vocals, and I, kept being like, oh, try this, try that. Like, but I kept being like, hey, maybe this is a dumb idea, but try this. And then, hey, I have a lot of dumb ideas. Like, I just constantly am like trying to be like, don't take my idea just because I'm the one who said it.
Yeah.
And just because I'm technically in charge because I'm producing or whatever. That's not, and I'll fight you if I really think an idea is whatever. But at the same time, don't just agree with me, because I said it. And it kind of made me think that is the thing. One of the things that is a producer's job a lot of times is, like, everybody thinks that people who produce music just know how it should go. And it's like, no, we just have a way higher tolerance for being wrong.
Is that it?
It is.
You're just fine with trying those ideas.
I will throw 30 ideas at the wall, and it doesn't bother me that 29 of them don't stick.
Right.
I don't get discouraged when something I suggested doesn't work. It doesn't even it's not even a blip on my radar. I just said, maybe this. No, okay, I've got more ideas. Yeah. In a weird way, it's probably a good piece of advice for any musician out there who does work with a producer. Like, certainly there's a lot of geniuses out there, but I know from working with and for really great producers, a lot of times it's just they're willing to experiment and experiment freely and experiment without any fear or like it's gonna if I say something and it's a dumb idea, then I'm gonna feel bad. They don't have any of that. I can say a bad idea. I don't, I'm not gonna feel bad.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm talking about mostly white men to keep on topic with, we don't have to be ashamed of a bad idea.
Right, because you're already in power.
Because we've got a long track record.
And I'm going to pull the little thread of letting go of ideas. I'm proud of myself for letting go of an idea this weekend. I told you about it. So I spent a lot of the weekend writing lyrics, not music, not even anything that rhymes. I guess you might call it freeform poetry. Because, as I said last podcast, I'm tossing stuff over the wall to you to make music out of it. So we're doing the Elton John style lyric writing. Some of the other work I did this weekend was reproducing a song I'm very attached to called The Muse, which I wrote, 2018 or so. And we've played it live as a band. And the way that it's currently demoed isn't in line with the brand we want now or the feel we want now. So I thought, okay, I'll reproduce it. I love this song. I'm just going to reproduce it so we can put it in the set. And I reproduced the whole thing this weekend. And then I was like, nope, still not one of our songs. And I felt like I got closure with that song. Like, I can still love it. I can still have it, but we're not going to play it. And it's just like, it's gone now. And I'm okay with that, in spite of the time put in.
And I was telling you, I think that's one thing that gets in a lot of maybe artists' way, maybe people in general, is I guess it's a little bit of that sunk cost fallacy where like people will insist on doing a song because they're like, yeah, but I put so much time and effort into it. So I have to do it because I'm losing if I don't do it because I put all this money. And it's like, yeah, but it's still not one of your best things, or it's not the best thing. I mean, I think The Muse is one of your best songs, but it doesn't need to be right now.
Yeah.
Or gosh, talking about recording, I mean, back in the old days, the number of times I would be like, and I know it drove people crazy, but we'd be 80% done with a song, and I'd be like, you know what? We're deleting all of this. We need to load the drums back in. Like, we started wrong, and I know we've done a ton of work, but we just, it doesn't matter that we're throwing away that work. Mm-hmm. That doesn't actually benefit anybody,
I see it now, finally. I think it's a sense of, when you have a sense of abundance about your creative process, you can afford to let things go. And when you don't, you need to hang on to anything you've created.
Right.
And I'm finding a sense of abundance right now in my lyric writing because of the way we're doing it. Where, I mean, I've talked about what we're doing, but it's really starting to come to fruition. So I'm writing words. Well, here's my whole process. I go for a walk in the morning. I think about whatever comes to mind. And if there's something that feels like I have a message I want to put into a song, I'll kind of dig into it and I'll just voice memo some phrases. And some of it is mean or rough or stupid or could never be lyrics. But I just get a bunch of words down, and then I come back from my walk. I try to pick out the gems from that vocal vomit, and then build a set of words that looks like it could end up being a song out of that. And the thing that is helping is I'm not trying to rhyme. I'm not trying to be in time. I'm not writing a melody. All I'm looking for is, what do I really think about this thing?
Right.
What do I most deeply think? Like not the most balanced way of looking at both sides of some story, not, some full picture, but like this little grain of sand, this little rock that's in my shoe.
Right.
I don't know if you've written anything that I've sent to you, but like some of it, I don't think can ever see the light of day because it's pretty rough, but it's pretty real.
And that, and that I think is going to have a lot of influence on me, as someone who, with artist development and teaching songwriting sometimes one of the problems is you're trying to do a handful of things at the same time.
Right.
You're trying to be real. You're trying to find an authentic thing. You're trying to rhyme. Yeah. You're trying to be melodic.
You're trying to be rhythmic,
musical, find some stuff. That's a lot of things to be doing all at once. Maybe you're trying to be
literary and like come up with similes and metaphors and
it's a lot of
sensory words. And I'm not doing anything but trying to be real right now.
And
it's coming up with we'll see what happens, but I feel like I'm coming up with the best lyrics I've ever come up with.
It makes a lot of sense though to just like, hey, break it down.
Yeah.
Break it down into parts. Like, don't try to do everything all at once. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like the dilemma I always talk about of like, you get 3 lines and then you can't figure out that 4th line rhyme and you're just stopped there.
And you're like looking in the rhyming dictionary. I need to find a word that could possibly fit and not make nonsense out of my verse.
and literally 3 sentences earlier, you were starting from a place of true inspiration.
Right.
But then you couldn't find a line for the 4th line, and you ground to a halt. And it's like, I tell people all the time, like, that's time for a nonsense word or a nonsense line, or just keep moving with the inspiration.
Yeah.
Like, don't let, but it's got a rhyme, kind of like, I mean, you can go back and find the rhyme, it's the point.
Yeah.
Eventually.
If you need one. I mean, Stevie Nicks.
If you even need one.
Stevie Nicks often did not rhyme. And I was just listening to a Mitski tune on the way home today. Mitski's hit The Last Heartbreaker, which is a recent hit.
Oh, yeah.
The first few lines are like, if you would just make one mistake, what a relief that would be. But for as long as we're together, I will be the only heartbreaker.
Right.
There's not a single thing that rhymes.
Yeah.
There's not even a single thing that is like internally rhythmic or like it's just a delivery of something real.
Yeah. When a man loves a woman, not a single rhyme in the entire song.
Really?
Not 2 lines rhyme.
Whoa.
In the entire song. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And it's one of my favorite lyrics of all time, from a Puddle and Mud record that my friend did, who I owe a text if he happens to see this. The line is, looking back on my childhood, it wasn't that bad and it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And it's so much better.
Right.
that it doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it has so much punch. It's the first line of the entire song. And it was a radio hit, you know, but it was like, looking back at my childhood, it wasn't that bad and it wasn't that good. Looking back at my childhood, it wasn't that bad and it wasn't that great. You're like, all right, I need to hear that.
Yeah.
It's such a, we get, but you know, I mean, I guess one thing you could say is we all box ourselves in with all these rules. And when you really go back and listen to all these great things, you're like, man, not everything follows the rules.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the inspiration matters more. I don't know. I don't know why I'm trying to sum this up into some sort of.
I just, you know, the upcoming radio feature, which sounds like it is going to happen, and some response I've gotten through this podcast from friends has made me be really inspired to be real. And I am inspired to write in a more authentic way than I have maybe ever been. Like,
right.
Some time has passed. Something about this milestone birthday I just crossed has made me be really reflective and think about age and time and life and relationships and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm now singing mostly to people who are younger than me, and at least a few of them are curious what I have to say.
Right.
And that's pushing me. And I love it.
Well, and gosh, what are you going to do? You know, I mean, like, spreading honest things in the world is a worthwhile use of anybody's time. And that's kind of the cool thing. I mean, like, everybody has a different authentic experience.
Absolutely.
And, you know, something to... Anyway,
so what are we heading toward? You've got a marathon weekend.
It is. I got a marathon weekend.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's spring break, so you're doing tons and tons of work with young artists who are available only this week.
Right. That's been a lot of recording.
Yeah. And then Friday, we need to be in Colorado Springs at 8 a.m. Oh!
For a video shoot.
Yeah, video shoot.
Doing
with Cody.
Promo video shoot with Cody.
Cody Qualls and the brand new Ancients.
Yeah, and we'll have to, I think it's called Production Point. Dan Buckley is at least partially running it. I don't know the entire story. We'll find out Friday. But it sounds like that's a pretty major commercial facility.
Yeah, did you watch the video of it?
I haven't yet, no.
Yeah, that looks
really professional.
It's big, and
yeah. Down in the Springs. So we're doing Cody's thing, and then we have a gig with Cody that night.
Yeah, so we're going to be in the Springs all day, from very early to very late. Yeah. And then you need to be somewhere at, 8 a.m. the next morning?
We have showcase rehearsal.
Oh, that's right.
At 10 a.m.
Woo, yeah.
And then we're leaving there, and we're going to Buffalo Rose. Gosh, I feel like I was just talking about Buffalo Rose and how much we like.
We were.
Yeah, Marco and David and
so this time it's Buffalo
Taylor.
Rose. The Petty Nicks experience.
With Petty Nicks, we were just there with Cody. And then Sunday, I wake up and I'm doing the guitars for the entire Ipecac EP in one day.
This sounds completely exhausting. Can you at least take Monday or Tuesday off?
Yeah, I mean, not really, but, you know, your tolerance kind of goes up a little bit.
What time is it? It's my bedtime. It's like 10.
It probably is. Let's pull this podcast over to the side of the road.
All right. Before it gets dangerous?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone, again, who's tuning in. It always surprises us. We keep meeting more people who maybe are a blast from the past or kind of far from our network, and we love hearing about you listening. And
it's not only nice that you do listen, it's nice that people consistently say something like, thanks so much for mentioning it too. I mean, you could just not even mention it and whatever. This podcast is sponsored by Performance High Voice and Music Studio. Right. And 102 Indie 102.3. Thank you, Indie 102.3, which you legitimately love. You have talked about how much you enjoy that radio station. I do. Yeah. I do. And I found a new love for it when I came back from New Zealand, having not heard any new music the entire month. Right. And then I came back home and I was like, this is home. This is like... We can't underestimate how cool that is to have. So, actually, I think I started donating to 102.3 a couple months before I went to New Zealand, sometime this year, but I'm a supporter. I'm a financial supporter. Yeah, I'm a CPR guy. I don't know if that trickles down or not. I don't think it does. I do both, actually. Okay. All right. Well, something to know. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. See you next week.